I'm Derek Eyring. I've been in the real estate business for over 3 decades. I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and I'm always paying attention to real estate trends, industry innovators, and business influencers.
I'm Alan Smith. For over 25 years, I've helped buyers and sellers with their real estate needs. Join us on this podcast. Let's talk about strategies to help you play this real estate game to win.
Join us as we search out the latest trends, hot topics, red flags, and deal breakers in every episode of Market Movers. Earlier this month, you sent out a list to our brokers of just some sort of things you've learned over your career, and I came up with a few as well. And I thought maybe it's more agent-centric, but some of these are just good things that we've learned by stubbing our toe, basically. Right?
Okay, so I think the first thing I would start with, and by the way, none of these are in necessarily order, it's just what you learn when you learn it.
Right.
But the first one I would say is never assume you have the business.
That's a great one.
Always take the approach that you have to earn this business. So if it's family members or really good friends, you tend to think, oh yeah, I've known this person for 20 years. Of course they'd hire me. Why wouldn't they?
Right.
But if you don't show up professional, you don't show up with a polished approach to what you need to do to help them solve their issue, they may very well find they want to go a different direction. And then they're going to spend 2 or 3 days figuring out how they're going to tell you they don't want to hire you.
Right.
So,
right.
So don't show up in your bunny slippers and your PJs, for a listing appointment. Treat it just the same way you would any other client.
Right, and it reminds me of something that I've heard you say before. They've seen you at the barbecue.
Right.
After 3 beers.
Yeah, that's not the person they're trying to hire.
Right. So
they're
you
trying
need
to hire the other one.
You need to show them the side that maybe they haven't seen.
Right.
Right. So that's a great one to remember.
Yep.
I can't think of how many times, there's been a bunch, where one of our brokers went to a listing appointment with a friend or family member, thought they had it before they even showed up, and then came back and said, they went with somebody else.
Or you just don't take the time to prepare because you think,
it.
I know their house, I've been in their house. Treat every real estate relationship with as much detail and integrity as you would any other, and that'll serve you well.
Right. And with that being said, I also have to say this. There will be times that no matter how prepared you are and how well you do, and if you give them the best listing presentation, for example, we're talking about listings, they might not like your price. Sometimes it just comes down to that. And our job is to guide people and to tell people, here's what we believe is going to happen based upon what's happening in the marketplace. Ultimately, it's our client's decision, but we have to guide them. And sometimes our guidance isn't what they want to hear.
Right. I think we give them what their options are and say, if you go down this path, this, and this. If you go down this path, this, and this. What are you comfortable with? And there's another saying, we control the process, they control the decisions.
Absolutely.
And as long as they own those decisions, then they can feel good about making them. But just treat everybody the way that you would expect to be treated if you were in their shoes.
Yeah. And that's always a struggle with brokers is, I want to be firm. I want people to know what the reality of the market is, but I don't want to offend somebody, and I don't want them to feel like whatever I say is off-putting,
Yeah, you may have clients, and we talked about this earlier today. In fact, you may have clients, I don't want a sign in the yard. I don't want a key box on the door. I don't want any pictures of the property, and sometimes you have to be a friend, but sometimes you have to be a parent.
Yeah.
And say, this isn't how you're going to get this done.
All right, well, my first one is probably the one that I repeat over and over all these years the most, and that's activity brings activity, and I really believe this, and that's why I talk about it so much. So if you're not busy and you don't have anything going on, I think this is a general rule for anybody, getting out there and creating some activity, whether it just be in our business, going to preview some listings or going to meet some past clients for lunch and just catch up on their life or anything like that, creates momentum. And you need momentum to get business. Nobody wants to work with somebody that has nothing going on.
What's the old saying? It takes much more effort to get up to speed than it does to stay at speed.
Right. Yeah.
And so, and plus I find that when you're in the zone, when you're clicking and you're working, it's easier to stay in that zone, and then it's easier to handle things that come up on a daily basis.
Right. Yeah. And there is a sort of a peril that you can actually work yourself into too much work, right? And in my case, like I have several things going that I can always switch gears to. So if my real estate sales business is slow, I can move into the brokerage side and focus more on the brokerage stuff. If the brokerage stuff is running great and there's no problems, I might focus on rental properties for a while and, go work on some rentals and make sure that they're up to snuff. If that's going kind of slow, I might switch to the flip house market, and I hate that word. It's not really as easy as just flipping a house. It's a lot of work, but the flip house market, and I might go focus on that for a while. So I'm always trying to move in the direction of business, and I'm always trying I have a lot of times where I'm not that busy, so I have to switch gears.
Sure. And those are the times where you can work on your business, not just in your business, and trying to figure out ways of improving it all the time too.
Yeah, and if if you only have one thing going, you can always go and find more things to do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so what do you got next?
Well, it brings up, in my thoughts, the most important appointment most of the time is going to be that first appointment.
Yes.
And I think so many times brokers do a disservice to themselves by either not being prepared, or the kiss of all death is showing up late.
Showing up late is a big deal.
I mean, I grew up as a Marine Corps brat, and I learned that if you were late, then that meant that your men were dying on the battlefield.
Right.
And so from a very early age, I was programmed to believe that you were never late. And to this day, I can feel my blood pressure racing if 167 is getting the best of me and I've got to be somewhere. So don't be late. Show up on time. Show up prepared. Show up a few minutes early, and take the time to prepare for these appointments, because the first impression you make is going to last forever.
Yeah, I think that's your only shot, really. It's very rare that somebody gets a second bite at the apple.
Right, exactly. Yep.
With that kind of thing. So, all right, my next one is, and I'm telling my kids this now, the key to success is just to stick around, right? And if you were a Russell Wilson fan, it was always the "Why not me?" Right?
Yes.
Isn't that what he said? Something like that. Why not me? I feel that way for my kids. Why not you guys? I mean, if you guys want to do something, why not? Why couldn't it be you?
Right.
But you have to stay around. You have to stay in the business, whatever that is that you want to do, long enough, and you have to engage long enough to be ready for an opportunity.
Yeah, I think you have to be prepared to deal with setbacks also.
And there's going to be some.
Nothing is handed to you, and so you're going to have some ups and downs. Let's just speak specifically about a career path. You're going to have ups and downs in your career, and so just know it. And when you're faced with a challenge or an obstacle, just say, this too shall pass,
Right.
and we'll get through this. We're going to turn it into a learning experience, and the next time this happens, it's not going to happen. Because I'm looking out in advance for possibilities.
Right, and I think you got to have that attitude, because you might trudge away for a year with not too much going on, but if you keep going, then you get one thing going and another thing.
Yep.
But it takes time. You got to build that momentum. So stick around. Figure out a way that you can stick around.
And I think one of the keys to help with that is what my next takeaway would be: use systems and checklists.
You're a systems guy.
For almost everything.
Yeah.
When you think about the things that we do, showing houses, listing presentations, getting the listing on market, getting either the seller or the buyer under contract, and then managing the escrow files. And then how do we handle our lead generation before and then after the sale? How do we do all these things? Well, you should have a checklist for all these things. If I'm going to put a house on the market tomorrow, I should have a checklist of here's everything I need to do so I don't have to think about it and nothing falls through the cracks. If I'm going to prepare some paperwork for a buyer on an offer they want to submit, submit? Here's the forms I need to do. Do I have templates set up in some of the software that we use? Take the time now to build those systems and checklists, and they'll pay off exponentially down the road.
Yeah, and I think, the number one thing for a new broker, I really believe, is to get into a CRM program as quickly as possible, and basically get your customer database set up somewhere and touch them at least like once a month, right?
Yep.
I wish I would have done that from the get-go.
Sure.
When I started. You don't have to do that for very long before you have 50 to 100 names
Right.
in there, and that's all you need is 50 to 100 raving fans, right? That will always recommend you. You don't need 1,000 people. You just need a good bunch of them.
Yeah, and I think there's an assumption here that they're supposed to remember me. It's
Right.
not their job to remember you. It's your job to be memorable.
Yeah.
So every now and
absolutely.
then, just reach out to them and say, "Hey, how you doing?" It's not selling. It's not like, "Hey, do you know anybody who wants to buy a house?" Nobody wants that in their life.
Nobody.
It's just a matter of, "Hey, I was thinking about you the other day. I know you love to bowl. I saw this new advertisement for a bowling ball, and I thought, oh man, I got to call Bob." So,
Right.
so just being in their life is a great place to start. And you need to have a system in place, because you will not remember when the last time it is you talked to this person. You need a system in place that says, "Hey, you haven't talked to Bob in 6 months. You might want to reach out and say hi."
Right, absolutely. I'm totally down with that. And, I try, my goal when I meet new people in our business is friendship. And so I just want to reach out to my past clients as a friend and, hey, ask, figure out what's going on in your life.
Right.
Let's catch up.
Yeah.
And just have a chat with some coffee or something.
Sure. So it makes perfect.
All right, so my next one kind of goes hand in hand with the key to success is stick around, and that is keep your overhead low. It's something that it's kind of an obvious thing, right? Keep your overhead down when you're first getting started in a business, but I think we can get pulled away and carried away. There's lots of folks coming at us. Try this.
Yes.
Spend $1,000 a month here. Do
Yes.
this. Drive here to this seminar. A lot of seminars,
Right.
a lot of that. Right?
A lot of them are good.
A lot of them are good, but pace yourself and keep your overhead low, and don't go out and buy. The old adage when we started selling is go buy a brand new car, then you're going to be motivated.
Yeah,
It's the old school,
you
right?
have that big car payment, so that's going to make you get off
That'll
that couch
motivate
and go
you.
to work.
Yeah, well, we learned a long time ago that's not necessarily the best way to go. Right?
That works for some people. It provides motivation, but more people, I think, get locked up on that approach to the business. And you can outspend anybody. Just it's like any hobby that you might have. You can spend just as much as you want, but be judicious with how you spend your money. You used to say all the time, stash the cash.
Yes,
Just
the
have
cash.
that in the background so that when you need it, you have it. And don't get caught up in the jelly of the month club, because in
Right.
our world, it's, hey, this marketing campaign, or guess what? We've got a better lead system than anybody. And you're going to get that same email 3 times a day. So just take it for what it's worth and just be careful.
Absolutely. So that's one of the keys to our business for sure.
My other thought on the next one would be that every transaction is an emotional roller coaster. And we forget, as the broker in the transaction, what it's like for our clients. They're worried about a lot of different things. They're worried about making this move and whether the kids are okay with it. They're worried about, am I going to like this new town that my job promotion has just taken me to? What does it look like selling this place, buying a new place? How do I do all this? They're losing sleep at night. And to us, a lot of times, it's just another transaction, and we've got things figured out. So it's going to be an emotional roller coaster ride for your clients. I think it's my job as the driver of the roller coaster to make it a fun, enjoyable experience, knowing that there will be ups and downs, not terrifying.
Right.
This shouldn't be a terrifying experience. So if I'm triggering my clients by being over emotional, about things or overcritical about things or constantly chirping about the other side of the transaction,
Yes, yeah.
that's not helping anything. That's maybe stroking my ego a little bit, and that's the only reason why I'm doing it, but that needs to stop. So just keep the roller coaster fun. It doesn't have to be terrifying.
I think that's a pitfall a trap that we can all get in is to get sort of, there's a problem in the transaction and it's not generated from us. The other parties involved are squawking about something. It's sort of a natural instinct to want to tell your clients about it, right?
Right.
Not always the best idea, right?
I have found that whenever buyers and sellers are at odds with each other, it was probably generated from the broker.
Yeah.
The broker went to their client and said something like, well, I can't believe, you won't believe what they're asking for now.
Yeah.
And that's how it starts, right?
Right.
And so get out of that mode. You're not helping anybody have a peaceful, easy roller coaster ride, are you? And so help them accomplish what they're trying to accomplish is the big takeaway.
Yeah, absolutely. My next one is something that I learned the hard way over years of watching other people do their business, and it's comparison is the thief of joy.
Ooh, yeah.
You know, we spend a lot of time comparing ourselves to other people for various reasons, right? And sometimes that can be motivating, and sometimes it cannot be motivating, right? It's like, oh, geez, I'm working so hard, and Bob down the street, it seems like things are just coming, left and right, and we don't know what's going on with their lives,
Right.
or how much money they've spent for
Sure.
lead generation,
Sure.
or how many people are on their team, or whatever. Just do your business very well, and you'll get more business, and you don't need to compare yourself to everybody else.
You mean that things we see on social media aren't always true?
I guess not. I mean,
Ooh.
I guess not.
I assumed they were, but you know.
But I've fallen into that trap, and I'm sure everybody does.
Sure, and it's just as dangerous on YouTube. Look at me. I sold 50 houses last night while I slept.
Right.
Buy my system right now. I'll tell you how you can do it too.
Exactly.
There's enough of that going around. Just watch out for that.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would caution people on, it kind of piggybacks on the last thing I was saying, is try to get along with everybody in the transaction, especially the other real estate broker if there are two brokers involved in this transaction, because the agent that you flame out on today
Right.
is the agent that you're going to need a favor from tomorrow.
Yeah.
This world is a small place, and the minute I start chirping at you about something, and we get off the phone and I'm feeling all puffed up, I'm feeling good about how I read you the riot act. Well, guess what? Tomorrow another client of mine wants to see your other listing, and now I've got to call you and be nice and say,
Right.
gosh, do you have any other offers? So just remember that that's going to happen, and just treat everybody the way you want to be treated, and get your emotions out of the deal.
Yeah, and I wish there was a way that buyers and sellers could get a sense before they hired a broker of how connected and how well or not so well they get along with other brokers in the area, because I think that's one of the more important ways to negotiate well.
Yeah.
Is if you have good connections and good communication with your fellow brokers in the marketplace. If you're one of these folks that just doesn't ever seem to get along with anybody, that's detrimental to your client.
Right, that's not helping your client at all. Almost like we
Yeah.
need a review system, but your only
peer
reviews
review.
come from your peers.
Yeah. So buyers and sellers, if you can suss out somewhat one way or another whether the broker you're thinking about hiring it works with other folks well, that would be good to know.
Yeah.
All right. So, the one thing we've learned over the years, we've been doing this a while, and we've worked with brokers a lot. We've had lots of contests. We've given away trips. We've given away iPads. We've given away all sorts of things to try to motivate people to do more business, to work harder. Do you think that generally...
It always works, right?
Yeah, does it always work?
I don't think so.
It never really works. It's fun to give away stuff, and that builds up some good camaraderie in the office, and I think that's great, but it doesn't really motivate people to do more business, right?
Right. Right.
You have to have the fire in your belly, and where you find that is wherever you find it.
Right.
That sounded like a very
That's pretty deep, though.
generic
Yeah.
answer. Seriously, you have to find the fire in your own belly, right?
Yep.
You can't expect other folks to motivate you.
Right.
So whatever that may be, like there's certain things that motivate me right now, and 2 years from now that might be different.
Sure.
But I need to really spend time sometimes thinking, why am I doing all? I mean, the ultimate question, right? We've all been there. What am I doing all this for? What's the point of it all?
Yeah.
I'm working so hard. What's the purpose of all of this, right?
Right.
So find the reason and the purpose and get the fire in your belly.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point, because if you're looking for other things to motivate you, we have people come to us all the time. What kind of leads are you going to give me?
Right.
Well, it depends. What are you going to do with the leads we do give you?
Right.
If you're not going to call them anyway, how many more do you want? 'Cause
Yeah.
you're not doing anybody.
Oh,
a
those are all
favor,
bad
so-
leads, Al.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, none of those are
Yeah,
good.
those leads, again, Glengarry, Glen Ross, right? These leads suck.
Right.
So, just motivate yourself, figure out why you got in this business to begin with, and remember that. And then work your life around what you want to get accomplished. This is just a tool to help you accomplish, hopefully, some of your financial goals that you have in life. But the relationships that we build along the way are what you really remember.
Absolutely.
I don't
yeah.
remember what I made on a transaction a couple years ago, but I sure remember those folks. And we get together and have lunch every now and then. And wouldn't have had that relationship if we didn't have that transaction. So I'm not motivated by things that are external. I think you trust your process and work your life the way you want to work it, and be the person you want to be, and provide your own motivation.
Yeah, absolutely.
My next one would be, let your partners, we all have partners in a real estate transaction. We have lenders that we work with. We have escrow and title people that we like to work with. We have home inspectors that we like to work with. We have sewer inspectors we like to work with. All these people that we've built up relationships over the years. Once you have those folks in place, let them do their job. You
Right.
don't have to bird dog them. You don't have to constantly look over their shoulder and say, gosh, what's going on? Now, you do have to ask a few questions, which I'll get to in a little bit, but trust your partners. You have them as a partner for a reason. Let them do their job and stay out of their way. I don't need to call escrow 3 times a day to see if they've got closing docs yet. If I have a good
Right.
relationship, I know they're going to let me know as soon as they get them. So let your partners do their job. Stay out of their way.
Yeah, and then to piggyback on top of that is that, again, for buyers and sellers, if your broker rolls out a list or a group of folks that they work with and that they trust, that's a good sign. That means that they're engaged in their business and that they've spent the time to suss out, to vet out, and get the best people, because they're a reflection back on us.
Right, exactly.
So that's important.
Yep.
So the next one might not be always popular with certain business models in our business, but I essentially said we got our license to escape the matrix, not work for the man, right?
Right.
You didn't want to work for the man.
Right.
So don't get sold into a situation where you can't build your own brand. And I'm talking, and this is going to be unpopular with the teams, but I'm talking to somebody who is thinking about going to work for a team where they're on the bottom of the chain.
Right.
Right? And they can't build their own business, their own brand.
Right.
They're working for the team. And the top of the team, the top of the pyramid, usually benefits the most. And
Sure.
the guy or gal, person on the bottom, is basically just working to promote them.
Right.
I don't see great outcomes for that. We've had a lot of people come to our offices that used to work on a team, and they have to start all over.
Right.
Because they were sold that you're going to get leads, and that's true, but they get the leads and then they give most of the money to their team leader,
Right.
and they can never work with those people again on a personal level, so they can't take that business with them.
You know, the unspoken truth is that model works from a business manager standpoint.
Yeah.
If I run an office with 200 brokers and I have 10 teams in there and everybody has to be on a team, well, guess what? I really only have to manage 10 people.
That
and
too.
they're responsible
Yeah.
for everybody else in their little world, right? So that makes it easy for me so I can run a different kind of business. I'm looking for ease and efficiency, not necessarily effectiveness, right?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
but that's not what people are being told when they look at those opportunities.
No, unfortunately, they're being told that they're going to be supplied with leads and everything's going to be hunky dory. And it, you know, in some ways, yeah, you're getting leads that you wouldn't normally get. But in other ways, I mean, if you have to start your business over every time you want to, kind of remove yourself from that team,
Right.
it can be very difficult. You only generally get one shot at any business startup. You can't usually go back in and do it again. And I just, folks that are thinking about getting started in this business, just really think about, it might be a little harder to start and build your own business, but it's the long game, right? It's going to be better.
Okay, I've got one for you.
Okay.
Takeaway next. Okay?
Okay.
How about this? Answer your phone.
Whoa.
I know.
Seriously?
I know. We carry these things around with us all day long.
Right.
And believe it or not, yes, they do a lot of things. They even take phone calls.
Right.
And so whether it's a text message from a client or an email from a client or a real phone call from a client, be responsive to that. You know, when I first got in this business, it was 1998. And the rap on real estate agents was that they never returned phone calls. I listed my house with this person and never heard from them again. Or, I called my agent and they called me 2 days later. And guess what? Here we are in 2024, end of the year, and that's still what I hear.
Yeah.
So if you have a cell phone, use it. Answer your phone calls, answer your emails, answer your text messages in a timely fashion. Doesn't mean you have to answer within 5 seconds. But if you can take the call live, take the call live. Don't ignore people, because especially in a transaction where you need information from the other side and they're ghosting you, then all of a sudden your anxiety level starts to creep up. And by the time they do return your phone calls 3 days later, you're not the same person you were when you made that call originally.
Right.
So understand that and just be respectful of other people the way you would be respectful of them.
Let's talk about the flip side of that, though, Al, too. I think that's important as well. When you're with clients and you're working with clients and your phone rings.
I don't take phone calls when I'm with clients.
There you go.
And all my clients know that because they've all seen me turn my phone off in front of them.
Okay.
The only exception to that rule is if I'm showing houses, I kind of need my phone on to open a key box.
Sure.
But I make it a point of saying I'm gonna put my phone on stun. I don't believe in taking phone calls when I'm with clients. So, oh, by the way, if you ever call me and you get my voicemail, please leave a message. It's probably because I'm on an appointment. And people respect that.
Right.
I've seen too many times where people, imagine the surgeon in open heart surgery stops every 17 seconds because he gets another text message. Probably not the best surgeon, right?
Yeah.
So answer your phone, but at the same time, when it's showtime, turn the thing off and make sure all your clients know that you do that, and stay focused in the moment.
I think that's really important, because I've noticed a lot of, and it's easy to get distracted with our phones. I mean, it's sort of part of they're going to have one glued to our head someday, I'm sure. But, I've noticed in open houses walking through, brokers on their phones, they're there, they're taking time out of their weekend to be there, away from their families, to maybe get some business.
Right.
Right, yeah, we have to engage with people.
Yeah, and yet it's I call it Agent Pavlov. The phone rings or it plings, and all of a sudden we're drooling.
Right. Yeah. And
so
totally
there's
get
two sides to the same coin. Answer your calls and be responsive, but at the same time, don't be a slave to this tool. This tool is there to serve you and help you be engaged in what matters, which is relationships.
Right. Okay, so when I started in the business, we had just gotten a fax machine.
Ooh.
the kind with the thermal paper on it, right? And then the next thing I know, so we had books. All of the real estate listings came in a book,
The MLS
and they
book.
dropped it off in the lobby
Yes.
once a week.
So
And
we had
that's where you got all your house
updates.
information, right?
Yes.
Right? And then one day, in the back room, a lonely computer showed up.
Yeah.
And somebody turned it on, and it was in DOS. And it was the Northwest MLS online.
User friendly.
Really
Yes.
user-friendly. But I can remember a lot of folks in the office saying, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
That's not going to, why would I do that,
Yeah.
right? And I feel like, so what my point is, of course, is we have to adapt, right?
Right.
We have to adapt to new things. And nowadays, one of the big things, one of the big resistant things that people resist is social media. And you and I would probably not do it either if it wasn't a big part of our business, right? So
Right.
here we are doing a podcast when we probably would rather be watching Matlock or something at this point.
Exactly. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Right? But we adapted, right?
Right.
We have to adapt because it's important to roll with what's working in our business, and people want to get to know. Most people make their choices online now as to like who they're going to talk to or work with, and they want to kind of get to know who they're going to be working with before they actually meet them.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, we're not buying a sweater at Nordstrom.
Yeah.
This is a big financial commitment, and so the higher the financial commitment, the more time people are going to spend thinking about the decision they're ultimately going to make. And so you have to just take that approach. You have to take that
Right.
approach every single time.
Right, and you have to be able to make yourself. You have to be a chameleon, and I'm sure in 2, 3, 4 more years, there will be another thing that we need to learn. Right, as time goes on, there will be more things to learn and adapt to, and we just have to be willing to kind of be fluid in that.
I remember every single thing that's been new in real estate was met with resistance.
Everything.
When we went to the computer, it was like, well, geez, now I just gotta get on the computer and get my updates. Well, we didn't think about now they're instant,
Yeah.
right? Instead
Yeah.
of one weekly update, right?
Right.
When it was, oh my gosh, now I have mapping software on my phone that I have to learn. I like my Thomas guide,
Right.
right? How many
Right.
times did we drive around looking for an address with a Thomas guide on our steering wheel?
Yeah,
right?
that was fun.
So that was met with resistance. Then it was AuthentiSign. That
Yeah.
was met with resistance,
Which is
or
a digital
DocuSign
signing.
if
Yeah.
you're using a generic version. But it's like, well, wait a minute, that takes all my personality out of the
Yeah.
equation. I can't just send something to my clients to sign. So everything that we do in the real estate world is met with resistance. There's an old saying that the pain of change is forgotten when the benefits of the change are fully realized.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you just have to go through that process and get through it, because
Yeah.
guess what? It'll probably be okay.
It usually is. It's
Yeah.
usually better.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So here
Exactly.
we are.
My next one would be give your clients an overview of the process and get good at foreshadowing future events. So when you're working with a buyer or you're working with a seller, make sure they understand what the next step is. Now, some clients will be overwhelmed if you give them more than 1 or 2 next steps. Other clients want everything detailed out on a spreadsheet to know what next steps are down the road. You have to tailor your approach to what makes them comfortable. But if you know what the next steps are and you can communicate that with your client, it gives them a sense of ease, because when they're staying up late at night thinking about, oh my gosh, when are we supposed to let them know about the inspection issues? When they're thinking about that kind of stuff, you've already told them, hey, we've got till Tuesday before we have to respond to this. Let's just take the night, think about it, let me know what you want to do. And by foreshadowing those events and letting them know next steps, that gets you back on that nice, easy, fun roller coaster, not the terrifying ride.
Yeah, and I think you have a sort of a good approach to this, and that you don't want to give your folks too much information. You want to give them a little piece at a time.
Yeah, if you catch yourself showing a laundry list of everything, the best thing you can do is to say, hey folks, just
It's overwhelming.
don't worry about any of this. I just want
Yeah.
you to know there's a system in place. We're going to handle this. That's my job. But don't you worry about any of this. I'll take care of all that.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, there is a system in place. Now I can relax. Some people need more hand holding than others. It's just the way they reach their comfort zone. That's all.
And that's a lot of communication, right? It's a lot of asking questions and making sure people are comfortable with what's happening.
Yep.
Right? And that they understand what's going to happen next.
Absolutely.
My next one is kind of a fun one. It's just to make sure and plan vacations.
Yeah.
Sounds silly, right?
Yeah.
Plan vacations. Well, yeah, all your realtors is going vacations. But what I'm saying is have something, a target out in front of you. And it might not be a vacation. It might be, I want to pour a new slab for my shop,
Right.
you know?
Right.
Which is speaking your language.
Yeah.
Or I want to do something out in the future that I need to target as put on my wish list, right?
Right.
So that I have something fun to forecast to or to work towards, right?
Yeah, reward yourself. Every time you have a victory, reward
Yeah.
yourself. I like to, you're bringing up a shop, I
Yeah.
like to do something in my shop, buy a new toy for myself or something every time I have a closing. And I don't do it until then. And so it teaches me discipline as well. But you'd be surprised how many times I've rethought what my next toy needs to be,
Right, by the
because I
time
took
you
a
get there.
moment.
Yeah.
So, but reward yourself. You work hard, and if you don't have people in your life that are there always giving you the thumbs up, then find little ways that you can feel good about what you just accomplished, and then go do the next one.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My next one would be don't be a dabbler.
A dabbler.
Don't be a dabbler.
What do you mean?
Don't be a hobbyist. Get good at what you do. Okay? So, in other words, think about the things that we do that really matter. We've already mentioned listing presentation, showing houses, preparing paperwork for our clients, handling the process through escrow, handling home inspections, and all these different things that we do that we're going to do every single time, right? Figure out a way to get good at it. Don't settle for where you're at on day one. If you need to, say, you know what? I'm really rusty on my listing presentations. If you don't have somebody you can talk to in your office, then get on YouTube and start doing research. Just find somebody out there. Gosh knows, there's a whole bunch of them out there,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
The first three you're going to watch, you're going to be like, that's not so good. But then the fourth one is going to resonate with you and say, okay, what are they really doing here? What are they talking about? How are they coming across? And study your craft. There's an old joke that somewhere in the world today is the world's worst doctor. They graduated from the worst medical school, bottom of their class.
Right.
And today, they are seeing patients. So don't be that person. This is your career, your profession. Always ask yourself, how can I get better at this? Take a look at what other people are doing that are really hitting out of the park and saying, wow, how can my marketing materials look that good? How prepared should I be? How can I get better at this thing? It'll only serve you well.
Yeah, and imitation is a sincerest form of flattery, right? So you can always go and look at folks in the marketplace that are doing things that you want to do, and just copy them. Not verbatim. You don't want to take their ideas, but hey, if they're doing great marketing, do something similar.
Right.
It doesn't. You don't
Right.
have to reinvent the wheel.
I really like the way this looks. I really like the way this is broken down into easy to understand steps. Maybe that's your approach right there.
Right.
Maybe your stuff's just too cluttered. But when you find something that resonates with you, give it a shot. Always be looking to learn and always be looking to get better at what you do.
Absolutely. Okay, so my next one involves what isn't working generally is you not working, right? So there's really nobody else to blame but me if I'm not busy. Right. And that generally, for me and for a lot of folks, involves doing activities that are just kind of spinning my wheels, right? I'm on the computer looking at houses,
That's work, isn't it?
I guess, is that work?
It's in Barbados. I mean,
Right,
it's a nice house.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Or I'm on Pinterest looking at bathrooms.
Yep.
That's fun and all, but it's not really proactive, work where we're actually meeting people
Right.
and talking about business or talking about what we do.
There's a difference between activity and productivity.
Right,
And
absolutely.
it's easy in our world now with computers to sit on the computer all day and think, wow, I really worked hard today. I'm tired. Holy cow,
Yeah.
I put in 2 hours. I'm exhausted.
Right.
And in reality, if it didn't lead to an appointment or an interaction with a real person, it's either prep work or it's busy work.
Yeah.
And it's good to just keep those things in mind. What are you really here for? What are you really trying to accomplish? Yes, you need to know inventory, obviously. You need to
Right.
get on there every day and say, okay, what happened in the marketplace last night? But that leads to the Plinko game of life, which is that chip then bounces over to over here, and pretty soon you're looking at, again, a villa in Barbados and thinking, gosh, who do I have for this
Goes
house,
back
right?
to Barbados.
But yeah, for some reason. But you got to check yourself at the door on some of that stuff. If you find yourself constantly being on Etsy and Pinterest and all this kind of stuff, then maybe you set a timer on your phone and just
Right.
say, okay, I'm going to have fun for the next hour, but then I need to get back to work. Because at the end of the day, you could feel busy, but
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily mean you were being productive.
Yeah, and I know my mantra is activity brings activity, but what I really mean by that is getting out and meeting people, more people. That's the key to any business, is to meet more humans, right?
Yes. Yep.
And so, however that is, if you're previewing houses, you're going to run into people because you're out and about and you're engaged in your business. If you're doing open houses, you're out and about engaged in your business. You have to meet more people.
Right.
You can't do that in your pajamas in the living room.
Correct.
I mean,
Correct.
you can, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It's probably not the best place.
No, it doesn't work. No one wants to see that. So, and that brings me to my next point, which is, now this one's going to sound a little harsh, and it can be if you take the wrong approach to it. But I run with the idea, and it's this: never assume the other side knows what they're doing.
Okay.
Okay? So what do I mean by that? It doesn't mean that I'm constantly challenging them and trying to catch them doing something wrong. But I don't assume when, let's say, a buyer comes along for one of my listings, I don't assume that the person writing up the paperwork for their buyer knows what they're doing. I don't assume they know which septic addendum to include. I don't assume they know how to calculate time on
Right.
the paperwork, right? Which is a big problem in
Gets
our
you
industry,
into real
right?
trouble.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So never assume they know what they are doing. Always double check. So for example, if it's my listing and they have until Thursday to deposit earnest money with escrow, guess what I have as a reminder first thing Friday morning? I'm calling escrow if I haven't seen an email yet. They were supposed to have it in by 5 o'clock yesterday, because most escrow offices close at 5, right? They were supposed to have it in by yesterday. I didn't see anything. I'm not just going to let that fly. It's my job to be on top of what they're supposed to be doing too, not just what I'm supposed to be doing. So
Right.
never assume, and then when you do find out you're working with someone great on the other side, gosh, how refreshing is that?
It's great.
Right?
Yeah.
But always take the approach that I'm just going to make sure that I double check, and that way you don't end up stubbing your toes too awful bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have lots of moments in transactions where we assume the other folks are doing something that would be like a normal part of their transaction. But every once in a while we slip up and we kind of let that go.
Right.
And then we find out it didn't happen. And our clients expect us to make sure that everything is happening according to the paperwork.
Right.
So we can't make those assumptions, we're
Right.
working for our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. You represent your client, and you need to do it with the best of your ability. And so there's an expectation there. So I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, that could sound very negative and very distrustful. I'm not really coming from that position.
No, I know you're not.
I'm just
I know
kind
you're
of
not.
saying, you know what, I want to make sure that that this is going smoothly for everybody's behalf. And
Yeah.
if I have to step in and help with something, I'm willing to do that. I want a good transaction at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
I want
And
everybody to be happy.
And I know none of this is coming from a place that, you got to watch out for other brokers that are incompetent. That's not what we're saying. We're just saying in order to do our job the best that we possibly can for our clients, that we need to make sure that we handle checking, double checking, making sure that we're on top of our job and that they're on top of their job.
Yep, absolutely.
So I think this is one of my last ones, and it has to do, it's basically be good to yourself physically, mentally, and spiritually. And sort of the deeper dive on that is there are some, a new agent can get into our business, and we've seen this happen, and get going and then sell a few things to friends and family and have a pretty good year or two. And then things kind of dissipate. They, it's a very hard business, right? Mm-hmm. It's not easy. The folks that can operate at a really high level year after year after year, I'm talking 30, 40, 50 deals a year, and we have some brokers like that, they're always also taking care of themselves, because
Right.
you cannot continue to operate at that level year after year if you're not paying attention to your personal life, to your body, to your mind, and just make sure that everything's not that we can always be lined up perfectly with all those things, but we need to at least pay attention to them.
Yeah. At
Right.
the end of the day, what are we working for?
Right.
We're building relationships. We're helping people accomplish their dreams. Well, we need to make sure that we're fulfilling our own needs at the same time, so that we can be there for others. Kind of the analogy is, in the plane, put your mask on first.
Right. So you can help other people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to make sure you're taking time out for that, because that's really important. It's so easy to get caught up on the rat wheel of life.
Yeah.
And you don't realize that you can hop off the wheel whenever you want to.
And it's a shame because, I've seen some really great people burn out because, it was all real estate and none of this other stuff.
Right.
And it's important that we sort of have a bigger picture view of our lives, because we're not just here to do real estate transactions.
If the only thing in your world are your real estate transactions, then really you're only as good as your last transaction.
Yeah.
And that's a bad place to be.
Yeah.
There are more life lessons than that.
Absolutely. I agree with you there. Totally.
I have a couple other ones. I would say when you're dealing with sellers, you need to have a killer listing presentation.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't have a great listing presentation, then that should be one of the first priorities you start working on. How am I coming across at the table? Am I speaking in a way that they are hearing me? Am I focused on their needs? Because everybody's needs are different, and sometimes a marketing approach will be different based on what the client wants to accomplish. The seller that wants to sell tomorrow and put cash in their pocket is a different marketing strategy than the person that doesn't really care when they sell. They just want to get the most amount of money.
Right, yeah, I can wait. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't
You
care.
can be on the market
So,
for
and we've
9
all
months.
had those.
Yeah.
So you have to have a killer listing presentation. So work on that. It goes back to the other thing I said about don't be a hobbyist, don't be a dabbler. Try to get better every single day at what you do. And then remember this, there's another thing I'd piggyback on this. I talk to a lot of frustrated brokers who maybe every now and then will have a transaction fall through.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It ain't closed till it's closed.
Yeah, it's not closed until it's closed.
So
Do you have any stories of
there are
things
all kinds of things. Yeah, I've had clients who all of a sudden a judgment showed up between closing and the last time they pulled title.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now the seller's writing a check instead of making money off the sale of their house. Now they don't want to sell. We've had buyers that have gone out and bought that brand new Tesla the day before
The
closing.
day before closing.
And all of a sudden now they don't qualify for their loan anymore.
Remember, buyers, you have to freeze.
Freeze.
You have to freeze.
Freeze.
Don't buy anything. Don't even get a better job. Don't get a worse job, but don't get a better job. Freeze.
Take the Sergeant Schultz approach to life. Do nothing.
I
Do
know.
nothing with your financial world while you're in a real estate transaction.
Right.
Talk to your lender. Make sure they know every single move you're making. But we've all had those things
Yes.
happen. So
Yeah, we have.
If you're starting to spend your compensation before your compensation has arrived in the mail, then that's a bad place to be.
Yeah.
So nothing closes until it closes.
Absolutely. You know, when I first got started, I remember I was out in the parking lot of my office trying to fix my car. I had a 1974 Toyota FJ, and it was a rust bucket, right? So I'm out there, and I'm on my way to an appointment, but the car won't start. So I got the hood up, and this guy comes out from my office, and he drove a nice car, and he was an older guy, and he wore a bow tie, and he was all buttoned down, and he was always doing business, and he was like, you know, kid, just never let anybody know that you need the deal. And I'm like, well, that's easy for you to say,
Right,
you
right,
know.
yeah.
Here I am trying to fix my car, right, you know. But I remembered that, and I took that with me, and I think what he was really trying to say is what you're just saying is, you know, it's never over till it's over. And you need to get yourself in a position where you're not attached to
Right.
the outcome.
Don't be
and
attached
once
to that.
you get to the position that you're not attached to the outcome, you actually do better business.
Right.
Because you're not worried about, you know, the check.
Yeah.
You're worried about taking care of your clients.
Yeah, they can tell if you're wearing the fragrance of the day, which is eau de commission.
Right.
Right? They
Right.
can tell if you're wearing that fragrance. So get unattached from that outcome, and you're really there to serve your clients and help them accomplish what they need to get accomplished, because people pick up on that.
Yeah, and when you're first starting out and you're hurting for to pay the bills, I mean, it's hard.
Yes.
But you really have to remove yourself from that, and however you can.
Right.
You know, go get a part-time job, whatever you need to do to alleviate yourself from constantly thinking about how you're going to get a deal closed.
Yeah. Yeah, and then to piggyback on that a little bit, a couple more things on sellers, working with sellers. When you get right down to it, the only two things that really matter are the price that you set on the property and the seller's motivation to get it sold.
Right.
If they're motivated to get it sold, and we talked a little bit about the person that needs money tomorrow and the person that just doesn't care whenever. If they're motivated to get it sold in a reasonable amount of time, they'll do the things they need to do to make the property presentable, to be approachable for showing time appointments, right?
Right.
They'll keep the lights on,
Yeah.
the nice music playing, the house will smell great, they'll empty the litter box.
Right.
That's important.
Flip side is we just had this happen, so I have to talk about it. We have a seller, we have a newer broker that just went on a listing appointment. The seller wants to know when every showing is and when that showing agent is gone, so that's kind of tough. They don't want to sign on the property. They don't want a key box on the property.
Right.
And they don't care how long it sits on the market. They
Right.
have to get their number,
Right.
which is about 100,000 higher than what the comparable sales tell our broker it should go for.
Yeah. So that's going to be a fun 6 months. That's going to, or longer.
Or longer.
Right? And so it kind of goes back to what I originally said. Sometimes you need to be a friend, and sometimes you need to be a parent.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to say, that's not the best way to do things. Can I tell you why? Can
Yeah.
I tell you why that concerns me? Can I tell you why I'm worried that might blow up in our face? Can I tell you why maybe that won't get you to where you need to be? It's always their motivation. Why are they moving?
Right.
If I can remind them all the reasons why they want to move to Montana and be there by the end of next month, then that helps them be realistic about their price. That helps them get the house ready, to do the landscaping, go ahead and mow the lawn, you know, that type of stuff,
Right.
right? If they're not concerned about the price and they have low motivation, that's going to be a rocky relationship, especially if they're the kind of people, like you mentioned, that want to tell you what to do all the time.
And the thing I want to say about that is if a broker just agrees with those folks and says, okay, yeah, I think we can make this happen, right? It's not the best thing for that client.
Right.
It's not reality, right? So if I just agree, oh, you know, I think I can get 700 for you when I know in my heart
Yeah.
that I can't, just to get a listing.
Right.
that's not a good position to be in.
No,
right?
imagine going to a dentist and you tell the dentist, can we just pull half the tooth and leave the other half that people see? And imagine a dentist saying, okay, yeah, sure, I think we can make that work. That's not a good dentist.
Right.
And so part of what they're paying us for is our honesty and our willingness to tell them what's going to really need to take place here.
Right.
So you have to trust that. And having said that too, there's also another old saying in real estate: there's nothing wrong with the house that the price can't fix.
Yeah, I love that one.
The worst house in the worst location will sell if you price it accordingly. The best house in the best location will sell if you price it accordingly. And so everybody starts right now online looking at prices. If your vacuum cleaner died and you've got a big event coming up tomorrow and you need a new vacuum cleaner, what do? You start going online, you start researching, and you start researching, and you start researching because your antenna is up really high for vacuum cleaners, right? You may have thrown out 3 weeks worth of ads about Vacuums R Us and you didn't care, but now you're in the market and you're excited about it. Your clients are the same way, and buyers are the same way on your listings. They know after spending 6 hours of looking at houses whether or not your house seems to offer any kind of a value there. So there's nothing wrong with the house the price can't fix. If you have a house that's challenged in a lot of ways, then guess what? You price it accordingly.
Absolutely.
Some houses will sell for more of a wholesale approach. Some houses will sell for more of a retail approach. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, and it's not like you can pull one over on a buyer, right? I think a new buyer that goes out and we show them 3 or 4 properties right off the bat, right? Don't you think by the time they're done with the first day out looking at houses, they have a pretty good feeling between that and looking online? They have a pretty good feeling of where value is. Right?
Right.
You can't really fool anybody. You certainly can't fool the appraiser.
Yeah.
By the time, if you fool the buyer and they're like, okay, I'm gonna buy this even though I know it might be a little high.
Right. No.
The appraiser's not gonna.
No. You got to satisfy the appraiser.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and they work for the bank.
And of course there's that occasional all cash buyer that drops out from Mars and comes down and buys something crazy for a crazy price.
Yeah.
But that's not very often.
No, and I can't financially plan based on that circumstance in life.
Yeah.
There's no method there. So.
Yeah. I mean, you hear about that a lot, but it's just like the McDonald's case where somebody won $1 million for a hot coffee poured on there. I don't even know if that really did that really happen?
I don't even know the results of that real case, but we all know the story, don't we? And now I know that every time I get a cup of coffee, it says caution, contents are hot.
Right.
So thank you. I needed that level of control.
Reality is not with that though.
Yeah.
So
And so the last thing.
Okay.
The last thing, and I've saved the best for last.
All right.
It does tie in with a little bit of never assume the other side knows what they're doing. But there is, actually I've got 2 more.
Okay.
2 more last things. First last thing is inspect what you expect.
This is a classic Al.
If you expect something to take place in this transaction, inspect and make sure it's going to happen.
Yes.
Kind of goes along with, like I said, don't assume the other side knows what they're doing. But inspect what you expect. If you're going to go out and show houses today, is your key card updated? Can you open a door when you get there?
Have you ever had that happen? I have.
I should tell you no, but I won't do that in the interest
How
of honesty.
embarrassing is that when you can't open the door?
Hey.
One of the main functions at first, that when we meet people, at least they expect us to at least be able to open the door.
Well, the old ones were kind of pagers, they packed around a little baby monitor.
Yeah.
And if you hadn't shown houses in a while, the batteries would always be dead.
Right.
So you show up and you're trying to open a door and you can't get it open. And the clients are standing there and you're like, trust me, I'm a professional.
Yeah. Right.
So just inspect what you expect. And that works in a lot of areas in life. And the last one, the most important thing.
All right.
There are 6 magic words that I'll just funnel this into our business and what we do.
Okay.
It's actually a question.
Okay.
But there are 6 magic words. Those words are, what's it like working with me?
Yeah.
What's it like working with me? If you can look yourself in the mirror and answer honestly, what's it like working with you? you'll be able to improve all the areas of your life that you need improving on, because you'll be responsible enough and you'll have enough integrity to say, you know what, I tend to be late a lot of the times. I need to fix that. Or I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to paperwork, so I need to learn my paperwork. So here's the great magic question. What's it like working with me? You ask yourself that question in the mirror every day. What's it like? Now, by the way, this works in every area of your life. You want to have some fun? What's it like having me for a child? What's it like having me for a parent? What's it like being married to me?
Oh.
Right? These are in-your-face, honest time
Yeah.
moments with yourself. You need to be able to answer those questions. Difficult to ask at times, but what's it like working with me? If you can ask that question every day, you'll only get better and better and better.
And it's really hard to be objectively reflective like that.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need a good friend that you trust.
Yes.
To be able to tell you,
Hey, what do you think it's like working with me?
yeah,
So,
in a nice way, say, well, I think you can work on whatever. you
right.
know.
Yeah. You need to have good people in your circle that can be honest enough and not feel like they're intimidated to tell you the honest truth.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we're all trying to get better at this thing called life.
Absolutely.
Right? We're all trying to have more fun, have an easier road, and just
care of our
enjoy
pe-
things more often.
And take care of our people.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I think that's a great place to leave it at. So thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Next time. Thanks, everybody.